Ray Allen Canine. It's no secret that we love Ray Allen Canine equipment. We use their products every single day at both Van Ness Canine and at Torchlight. Their mission statement says it all: to be the world leader in quality innovation for professional canine equipment for police, military, Schutzen, and ring sport. Tend to exceed their customers' expectations and deliver on time every time at a fair price. We full-heartedly believe that they've held true to that, since it is our go-to one-stop shop for everything canine, not just police dogs, but for any working dog.
This episode is also brought to you by our good friends over at Dogtra, dogtra.com. It's the e-collars that Ted and I use. It's the e-collars most police dog guys use. Dogtra.com, e-collars, bark collars, ball launchers, one-stop shop for everything you need for your working dog, dogtra.com.
One of the other sponsors we're proud to have is HITS Canine Training Conference. It's the premier canine training seminar in the United States, packed to the brim with the world's best instructors covering important topics from admins to liability to detection work, all and tracking and everything in between. There's no better place to learn and no better place to network with other handlers, breeders, and trainers. HITS 2022 is being held in Orlando in August. So hit them up, hitscanine.net.
We're super happy to be represented by our good friends at Kinetic Dog Food. We've got great reviews from people all over the place. Ever since we joined up with them and partnered with them, their commitment to your dog's nutrition is top notch. KineticDogFood.com. Check them out.
Jim over at NC Canine out in North Carolina. It's the culmination of 13 years of experience in handling or training law enforcement canines. They use real world deployments to develop their training program and rely not only on their experience, but the current experience of the nation's canine handlers provide the best canine partner you can get. They provide pet training and police canine training based out of Four Oaks, North Carolina, and they serve the surrounding areas as well as nationally. Feel free to call them and learn more about their dog training program, police canine techniques, and methodologies.
We got a brand new sponsor, man, American Aluminum Accessories. My entire time in canine, and ever since I've been involved in the dogs, the kennel in the back of our cruisers has always been American Aluminum. Check them out. We're so happy to have them on here. EasyRiderOnline.com, EasyRiderOnline.com for everything you need from American Aluminum Accessories.
Speaking of kennels, once you get out of the car, you got to have somewhere to put them. So our friends up in Ohio at Horizon Structures make a one-stop shop for kennel. If you want a 2-dog kennel or if you want a 20-dog kennel, they got you covered. They get those things built and they drop it off at your house. All you got to have is a pad, electricity, and water, and you can put dogs in it that day. Horizon Structures can build you anything from mild to wild, and it is the one-stop shop, and you don't have to swing a single hammer. So hit them up, horizonstructures.com.
All right, everybody. Working Dog Radio, broadcasting the bite. We are back with another great episode. As usual, from Ohio, I am Eric Stambro. And with the dogs in my room, one of them's itching. You can probably hear her scratching her collar in the background. With me, as always, from Tulsa, Oklahoma, is Ted Summers. Ted, what is going on in the burning hot Tulsa area?
Seriously, it is. It's ridiculous. It's stupid hot here. And I mean, we're getting our air conditioner installed. They brought it over. It's some kind of crazy, super expensive. I don't know. It's a big, giant air conditioner for the entire building. So that's going to be super exciting. They installed a giant exhaust fan. So it helped knock the temp down. It's not really bad in there during the day, but when it's 106 with humidity, it doesn't matter whether you're in the shade or not. It just sucks. Mm-hmm. So I got a bunch of pet dogs. I filled out several bid applications. We got a bunch of bid requirements for some large departments that want dogs. So I did that today and did some other stuff. So rocking and rolling and working those puppies. So I should have, we're going to do some Patreon editing probably this weekend for Patreon people. So you can see where those dogs are at. But one of the little pointers is already alerting, she's already indirect reward on an explosive odor with food out and other odors and everything else. And she didn't even know her name. So it's a pretty cool process to see how Jacob and I and Paul did it. But yeah, so I'm getting ready to go to Philly next is HRD in October. So a little bit out from here, but yeah, that'll be a large one. So what about you?
Well, speaking of Patreon, I'm doing I started, for those who don't know, we have a Patreon account, Working Dog Radio on Patreon. started a series on tone and the use of tone on the e-collar, how I do it with the pet dogs. But I've also started doing it with a couple different police dogs, and based off of a couple things, it's been crazy successful. I'm like, well, it worked for them dogs. I was trying it for these dogs. So I recorded part of that today. I'll probably throw that up. But it's pretty neat. It's a really neat way that we do things. Tone recall, there's a video up about that already. And then what we call tone avoidance is going to be the next section. So other than that, I have an explosive dog that I'm training up for a security company, but our buddy Scott over at Next Level Kennels. Have another dog that we're probably just going to do pet. He's a Malinois, who is a great dog. You would think in the kennel, the way he is, that he's totally insane Malinois as usual. When you start working him, he's good for a little bit and he falls out of drive pretty quickly. So you get a couple reps out of him, then he starts to lose interest no matter what it is you're doing. So his name is Venom. So we're just starting to mess with him a little bit on the pet side, and maybe we'll sell him to somebody for the cost of the training, basically. Still on target for September and October. No working dogs in my kennel. I'm taking those 2 months off. I'm still going to work with dudes and their dogs, but I'm done. I got to have a break, man. Plus around here, like right now, if I had a kennel full of working dogs, I'd be just losing money, because around here, not a lot of people buy working dogs in the summer as far as police departments go. Too busy. They don't want guys off the road. It kind of shuts down. Fall picks it back up. So I will do November. I'll start reloading the kennel, and then we'll see what we get. I canceled the handler school that I had set up. I'm like, I'm done. I just need a break. So other than that, the usual stuff. The pet business is super busy. We have still 12 trainers all booked out. The day training at the building could be a little better right now. It's a little slow. So the girls are pitching in. The day trainers are pitching in over at daycare, and that's been busy, and just getting content and things like that. So anyways, enough of that. What do we got going on tonight?
Well, so the guest tonight is actually a friend of another one of our interviewees. Everybody remembers Jake, Avalanche Jake, Jake Hutchinson. He's we interviewed him. It's been a while, but he was just at HRD with us in Montana. And like, I've known about this guest for quite a while. And it's kind of one of those, like, there's always been in the back of my mind, like, want to do this. And Jake's like, oh shit, he was training with me for the Avalanche stuff. Like, you guys need to have him on. So I did a little bit of research. So I'll just kind of give a little bit of preface. So our guest is a PJ in the Air Force. And I talked to some other guys within that community in the last couple of days, and they're like, what the fuck? Like, what are you doing with a PJ on Working Dog Radio? They don't have dogs. I'm like, just everybody chill out and give me a second. It's a crazy story. So with that, we have Rudy Parsons on tonight. Rudy, what's going on, man? How are you?
Hey, things are good. How you guys doing? So I heard everything you got going on the next couple months. Yeah.
Fucking busy. Yeah. So we have 9,000 irons in the fire. So this first section, why don't you give us like your background, getting into the military, and talk a little bit too about the pipeline for PJs, because I think everybody, especially guys that listen to this show that are in that community, and they even aren't, kind of like the pipeline for SEALs and for Rangers, and it's like it's in for you go to RIP or RASP now or whatever the fuck it's called now, and you, like, everybody knows that the pipeline for PJs is like
different.
Does it ever end?
No, it's never ends.
Like,
I was told today, actually, you can quit at any time. So
no, they still give you that shit, huh?
No one likes a quitter. So so give us your background, and before we get into like how we get to giving a dog to a PJ.
Yeah, absolutely. So Master Sergeant Rudy Parsons. I'm a pararescueman in the U.S. Air Force. Been in for 13 years now, over 13, and I was active duty for 6, and then I saw the light and transferred over to the Air National Guard. So currently stationed in Kentucky at the 123rd Special Tactics Squadron. So that's kind of my just general overview. But so I got in a little bit older than most of the kids getting in. So I was 20, 324. Obviously, we had a couple old farts with us too, but I was right in the middle of the pack. Joined up in 2008, and back then it was still indoctrination. So when you go through, it's 8 weeks of just wake up and you pretty much do a triathlon every single day. You wake up, you go do your CALs, your strength training, then you do your running, then you do some water training, usually just finning or the combat stroke. And then after lunch, you go back and it's just water confidence training. So that's the drown proofing, the underwaters, tying knots on a breath, all that type of stuff. So it was 8 weeks to graduate. I personally was there for a lot longer than that. So I was unaware of and untrained for the water stuff. So I kind of showed up and like a deer in the headlights and ended up having a rough time through the indoctrination portion. Lots of shallow water blackouts that ended up causing me to go back in training. And then once you graduate indoc, you go straight to dive school. And when the Navy doctors saw my medical records, they're like, why is this guy having so many shallow water blackouts? We're not going to let him dive for us. So I had to go back to indoc and do another course and I had to graduate again. Yeah.
Holy shit.
To show that I was no longer an underwater risk. So like I said, that was pretty tough. Ended up being about 11 months. Like I said, most guys one time get through in 2 months, and I was there for almost a year. So yeah.
Damn, dude.
So
you had a birthday in that bitch, probably.
I did, yeah. So yeah, it was
real quick, the underwater blackouts, it's not a medical problem at all?
It's not a medical problem. So they actually did the full gamut I did the stress test, the treadmill, neurological exams. I got everything checked, and every doctor I went to, every specialist was just like, yeah, we've come to the conclusion that you were passing out underwater due to a lack of oxygen. I was like, yeah, I could have told you that.
Shocking.
So, yeah. So what I personally, yeah, exactly. What I personally honed it down into was, like I said, back when I joined, we lived out in the boonies, so we still had dial-up internet. We were, allotted a certain amount of time on it. So like, I couldn't really at the time, I guess there was one website that told you what the secrets were and like what the graduation standards were. And I kind of read those and I was like, oh yeah, that's, just no notion of what I was really getting into.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't really have a good foundation. I got taught by the on-duty lifeguard how to swim at the YMCA. Like that was the most swimming I've done I grew up in Colorado, so I didn't really do much swimming or anything. Right. So yeah, I showed up and just had zero efficiency in the water, but my heart just really wanted it, I guess. And I'd go till I'd black out and
and you're like, man, fuck this. I joined the Air Force.
Yeah. Like, actually, I was looking at joining, I was debating between Coast Guard and Air Force, and I picked Air Force because
you didn't want to fucking swim.
I don't want to swim. So
and then
here we are.
Get in the water.
Yeah, I was gonna join to be an airborne linguist, and the classic recruiter passes the pamphlet across. Was like, you look like you want to do something more special operations, and I bought in. I was reading the pamphlet, and I was like, it says you have to do a 500-meter swim. And he's like, oh, that's the longest you'll have to swim though, just to entry. So I got duped, but ended up making it. So
you're the only guy that a recruiter has lied to.
Yeah, I'm a single case.
You should look that guy up.
And guess what? I know strippers love me too. So
exactly.
I'm a very special dude.
Exactly.
But yeah. So anyways, after that, went back to dive school. So that's where you go do your combat dive course. And then from there you go to Albuquerque and you spend the rest of your pipeline there as kind of your home base. And you'll go out to airborne, SEER, your survival school. Then you go to paramedic school. You do 6 months of paramedicine and get your actual national registry paramedic certificate through that. And then from there you do military free fall, and these are all jumbled up in order. A jump has to happen first before free fall, but everything else just happens at availability really. So depending on when a class opens up, some guys get through the entire pipeline in a year and a half, and then some guys take 2.5 years, but also plus my year at Indoc. So it ended up taking me about 3 years to get through the pipeline. But the final course is we call it PJU, your Pararescue Apprenticeship course. That's where they put all those classes and skills that you've learned throughout the pipeline and put them together. And then they start adding your marksmanship, your tactics, all that type of stuff. They teach you your mountain rescue, pretty much all the pararescue skills that are unique to our job. That's where you learn that at a very basic level and then graduate and get your beret.
So when you grew up in Colorado in high school, were you a runner?
I was a runner, wrestler too. So that's one of the things I personally think wrestling, swimmers tend to have a high success rate through NDOC, but people who've been put through the ringer and, you know, gone till their bodies have failed, generally tend to have a better shot. When
did you go through NDOC, or where? Excuse me, where was it?
So NDOC's at Lackland Air Force Base.
So
in Texas.
Running in Colorado, you get to Texas, you probably have an advantage because of having run at altitude for all those years.
Yeah.
When you get to Albuquerque, had you lost any of it?
Yeah, probably not, because I think I was at my prime physical conditioning after indoctrination and after dive school. So I didn't really notice anything, but I do think I lost some going through basic training, like having trained up, and then you show up to Air Force basic training and it's all learning how to, you know, make a bed and fold your clothes and roll socks. So you kind of lose your physical conditioning. From what I understand now, though, they're actually making huge changes in that, though. So the guys that are going through to be pararescue, combat control, the special operations Air Force guys, they actually go to special flight at basic training, and they get a lot more PT time. And then they go to an actual special warfare pre-course, and they get there's professional coaches. They get taught how to do appropriate movements and rehab and prehab and all this different stuff. So they're getting like 2 months of that.
It's a pretty common thing for guys our age that were in those communities. Like, we've talked to several other guys, and I've heard on other podcasts too, like dudes go through buds and then they get held over because they get hurt and they get like, fucked up. And so I think they sort of figured that out like down the road. But I mean, so there's this big like pushback, and I see it all the time. Like, people, you know, when we had Josh David on here, who's the Green Beret and Ranger, and he was like, I didn't really prepare for it, I just fucking showed up. And sometimes that works, and people because people ask him all the time, like, well, what do I need to do to prepare? He was like, fucking show up and don't quit. And you're like, oh, I mean,
that's it. Yeah,
there you go.
So I went to a couple schools, week-long schools, about an hour outside of Albuquerque. From Ohio, no elevation, right?
Oh yeah.
So I remember we go to Albuquerque, and we go out to the New Mexico Tech, I think is the name of the place. It was explosive stuff. And me and the guys with, and I was in pretty good shape, man. And we went and played pickup basketball, and I thought I was going to die within minutes of that shit. So when I asked about losing it, did you lose any of that altitude conditioning while you were in Texas before you went to, would you get to Albuquerque and go, oh no?
I think I definitely had to get used to the elevation again, but like I said, I think that was my peak. So it's kind of, you know, like athletes travel around the world and are able to acclimatize in a couple weeks. So I think that was doable at the time. There she goes.
We're not, it's not your turn yet, bitch. Shut up.
Yeah, we'll get to you in a second. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. But yeah, there's definitely, anytime you do those little changes in elevation, I can.
So now I know you're doing it for a long time. Is swimming still your weakest point, or are you caught up?
I think after a month
of everybody know.
Yeah, I think after a month of being in a year of being in that selection phase, it definitely. I will say I will never drown. That's for sure something I've been trained, but I'm not the fastest swimmer still. So, but yeah, I've definitely been trained and conditioned to be very comfortable in the water.
So you graduate, right?
Yep.
From all that stuff you were telling us about. Is it what year is that?
So that was graduating in 2011, and then from there I punched out to Moody Air Force Base in Georgia, and that's a rescue squadron. So just a whole lot of pararescuemen, combat rescue officers out there attached pretty much directly on the flight line. There's your Helo squadron, and then your C-130 squadron. So it's just that whole, I guess, the rescue triad is what they call it in that community. So pretty much you're training daily with the Helos, you're training as much as you can with the C-130s, just constantly doing that type of stuff. It's kind of an odd place for any type of like civilian rescue though, because a lot of the pararescue units are right along the coast and they get punched out 300, 600 miles off the coast because it's outside the Coast Guard ring. But Georgia didn't really have that civilian side, so they were purely just for pumping out dudes to augment or to deploy, so that type of stuff.
So we get all trained up, we get through the program, and you head out to deployments. So where did we go?
So out of Moody, I deployed, or sorry, quote unquote, deployed Kuwait. So it was a pretty cush deployment. We just did a lot of tanning ops at the pool and got multiple times to work out, and just as many eggs as you want for your meals, just that type of stuff. So it's pretty cush.
And then volleyball, did you guys get play a lot of beach volleyball or anything like that?
A lot of volleyball. Yeah, we did tournaments against the air crew and all that all the time. Just constant tanning ops pretty much. And then came back from that deployment. So that was pretty much just, you're kind of on an alert out there. It's all just posturing and politics out for that deployment. Then the next deployment was actually just right after the Benghazi thing. So I moved out to Italy and we set out. And so once again, deployment. But we were in southern Italy, just stationed out there just for NEO was the main plan. And then also just any type of Northern Africa stuff going on. So just sitting with C-130s and 60s prepared for anything like that. So in NEO, it's that exactly what's happening in Afghanistan right now. Just so evacuating people from embassies or U.S. citizens and our allies. So yeah, and then throughout that time, that was like 3 years at Moody. And like I said, throughout the time, I noticed a couple of the guard dudes that were just kind of doing some pretty cool deployments. And I just kept missing the Afghanistan deployment by the window. So I ended up just wanted to jump over to the guard and see if I had a little bit more say in my own destiny on this side. So came to Kentucky. I've been to Afghanistan. We've done a bunch of training in South America with some of our partner forces down there, and then a bunch of natural disaster response here as well. So a couple hurricanes and tornadoes and that type of stuff.
So for those listening, I mean, everyone kind of, if they don't, so kind of explain what their role of a PJ is like in terms of like the overall mission and what you guys do. I mean, other than like do extractions and whatnot.
So really the job of a PJ is to be able to get to any place that an American soldier or citizen could be that needs rescue. So that's like to the breakdown of the core of it. It started out with air crew and then it kind of developed into battlefield type stuff. So we kind of split into, we've got rescue, pararescue side, which is, those are what we've heard about, the medevac birds that are armed to the teeth. They fly out and pick up dudes in combat while in very hairy locations. And they're doing those types of missions. So that's what I missed. That's what Moody guys were doing. That's where I was hitting up Kuwait and Italy, which I'm not complaining about. That's pretty solid little deployments. But that's what that deployment looks like. And they go out Africa and Iraq, Afghanistan at the time, all that. So, and then you've got your special tactics PJs, which these guys are, and that's what I do here at Kentucky. We're developed to attach or augment to the other teams, so Rangers, SEALs, your ODA teams, and you'll attach on. And our job is to be, for one, we're shooters, we're medics, but what we bring to the table is that we are problem solvers and technical rescue experts. So we're supposed to be able to solve problems like how do you get a dude off the roof you know, a casualty off the roof when you can't expose yourself to fire, or, you know, how to get guys out of vehicles if they've been flipped, different stuff like that. Like I said, just problem solving, technical rescue. So all that.
So you're there when somebody has a really bad day.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and hopefully they're like, man, I'm glad you're here, but I hope I never have to see you, bro. So,
Mhm.
so in this time, how much contact did you have with NPCs, MWDs, combat assault dogs? I mean,
so the most contact I had was in Afghanistan. Anytime we do attach with the Rangers or be hanging out, I'd kind of just be drawn towards the MWDs. And that's pretty much it in my entire military career. We go through multiple training iterations and all that to learn how to treat these dogs. I personally never had to treat a dog that was injured in combat, but yeah.
If you had to explain to somebody medical training that you have, what level comparative to like we know where doctors are, physician assistants, nurse practitioners, medics, where do you guys fit in that whole scheme about?
Yeah, so we are nationally registered paramedics, so that's kind of our baseline. That's what our certification says for the civilian side. And then in our dirt medicine and in our extra stuff, we also do combat medicine. So we do a lot of battlefield surgery. So I've heard us compared to kind of like in between a physician's assistant and a paramedic, because we can do chest tubes, we can do crikes, you know, some very unique things in some very hairy places, and then add that to our actual recovery element too, of being able to extract somebody from crazy locations as well. But yeah, I think on a medical level, it'd be somewhere in between a paramedic and a physician's assistant.
Ted, what was that show? We talked about this before, I think, you and I. It was on, I don't know, man, like A&E or one of those. It was in Afghanistan, I believe. It was PJs. They would go with them. They get called out and they go, dude, they did some crazy shit in the back of a fucking helicopter, man.
It was A&E. I don't remember.
One of my favorite shows I'd seen. It wasn't actors. It was real. It was they had cameras all over the bird.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So that was my roommate, and then a couple of guys on my team. Yeah. So inside combat rescue.
Yeah. Dude, that was the best show, man.
Yeah.
That was like, fucking hairy.
Yeah. They're like in the throat. I was like, what?
Yeah.
You could see that one guy was his first, like one of his first ops, and they're like, get it in there. And he had to trach that dude.
Yeah. On the helicopter. Yeah.
Yeah, the cameras are doing this. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's crazy.
Yep.
I couldn't even brush my teeth in a moving helicopter.
It helps out quite a bit.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So up until this point,
that's oh, sorry. Go ahead.
That's so cool.
Talking over you.
No, you're good. Up until this point, like the only contacts you've had with dogs is like, you know, when you're in Italy and you're in Kuwait, you see the MPs with their fucking dogs, and then you train with the Rangers and see those dudes in Afghanistan, and that's it. So we're going to go to a break real quick. When we come back, we're going to tie all this together. Like, why do we have you on here talking about dogs? Because you're at this point, like you're like have no.
I don't know.
So when we come back, one of your humanitarian missions deployments was to Haiti after the earthquake. So we'll hear the story about how the dog program came to be and kind of like where it's at now. So I'm going to do the Eric thing. Don't fast forward through the commercials, and don't ask me what it is on Instagram, because I'm just going to tell you to go look at the show notes. So, so wait, we'll be back in just a second.
We have a long-standing relationship with the guys over at HITS K9 Training Conference. It's truly America's premier K9 seminar. It is the largest. It is the best. They cover every important topic in the K9 industry. Hundreds and hundreds of vendors, thousands of K9 people there. Everybody you know in this industry is there. Ted and I will be teaching. HITS 2022 is being held in Orlando, Florida, August 16th to the 19th. Also, check out their website, hitsk9.net. They have other classes that they're putting out online. Zoom classes and all kinds of other things. They're offering in-person classes leading up to HITS 2022, Orlando, Florida, August 16th to the 19th. Check it out, hitsk9.net.
Everyone knows that I live on chicken nuggets and Coors Light. So that doesn't mean your dog should, though. Our friends at Kinetic make it a point to fuel working dogs, and they know that it can be tough and they need high quality food, unlike me, to give them energy and the nutrients that they require. I just subsist on air and Coors Light, but the dogs can't. They actually have to work. So for that, we asked Kinetic, and Kinetic has come up with a great balance of healthy meats and grains, and is made specifically for working and sport dogs. They have a full line of foods and supplements available, and they've been working to perfect their line for thousands of dogs in hundreds of departments across the U.S. You can buy it locally online or at Tractor Supply, or you can get it at Chewy. So head over to their website, kineticdogfood.com, 513-615-6904, and get them on the socials at Kinetic Dog Food.
So probably the number one product I've ever advertised for or used that does what they say is Quick Derm by Vet Care. I have it at my house. I have it at the kennel. I have it at the fun house. I have it at the doggy daycare. I have my trainers have it at their house. It is unbelievable how it works. You guys have all heard Ted and I talk about it, how we've gotten tagged by dogs, or dogs do, if you're dealing with working dogs, weird stuff happens, right? Cuts that, how the hell that happened? Bites, scratches, all kinds of things that happen, especially if you're doing anything in the wooded area, they get tore up. The Quick Derm by Vet Care, it is no exaggeration. It is great. So once daily treatment for any skin condition or small wounds to help stop little issues from becoming big ones. Comes in sprays, ointments, or dressing. Quick Derm is great at creating a protective barrier and promoting wound healing. The best thing too is they have a discount code. Get on their website, vetcare.us. That's vetcare.us. Put in the discount code 10WDR in capital letters, 10WDR for 10% off your first order.
These next guys have actually been on the show, and we instructed at the first Tripwire conference down in Florida. Jim O'Brien was a guest on the show, and he runs NC K9, who has now come onto the show as a sponsor. Jim's been around for quite a long time, about 13-ish years, with experience handling and training law enforcement canines. He uses real-world deployments to develop training program and not rely only on their experience, but current experiences from most of their national canine teams and handlers to provide the best canine partner that you guys can purchase. They provide pet training and police canine services based out of Four Oaks, North Carolina, and they serve the surrounding areas. Feel free to give Jim a call, a text, carrier pigeon, however you want to get a hold of him, to talk to him about police canine training or pets and techniques and methodologies. So hit him up at 919-438-0141 or J O'Brien. That's JOBRIEN at NC, letter K number 9.us. Check the show notes. We'll put it there. All right. We are back with Pararescueman, Rudy Parsons. And we've kind of been discussing the pipeline, how we got to the point where we have a relevant to the audience listening to this for canine stuff. So, to kind of briefly gloss over what we listened to, like how these guys are trained, which is pretty intense. And Eric and I kind of mentioned one of the shows. If you haven't seen that show, you should go watch it. It's really good. And apparently, you said Rudy said one of your roommates, is in the show.
Yeah, I was living with the guy that he got deployed to Afghanistan, and he was on that show. So yeah, it was super intense. So the trick here is, your guys are finally. You guys are deployed to rescue downed pilots, injured soldiers, and American civilians or partner forces or like allies in crazy places, in crazy situations. And like I said a minute ago, like if somebody's having a bad day, they're probably going to see you. Probably the worst day of their life. And hopefully they come back with a cool story. And so one of your deployments was to Haiti during the earthquake. Was it 2010? No, 2010. So I'll correct. I wasn't on this deployment, but it's the pararescue community deployed to this. Right. So 2010 is that massive earthquake in Haiti. Hundreds of thousands of people died. But the island was devastated. and the airfields were even destroyed. And so there was no way to get relief in other than just the long process of a boat getting out there. So what they did is they deployed a bunch of pararescuemen and combat controllers to Haiti that parachuted in and began clearing the runway. And one of the skills of the combat controller is they can air traffic controllers as well. So that's one of their jobs, not only drop bombs, but they can also manage all the different aircraft in the air during that. So they put them into the civilian world after this earthquake. They start clearing the runway, trying to get it ready for relief to come in. And the local populace comes in and they're like, hey, there's this building outside that collapsed. There's at least 40 kids in there that collapsed in this building.
Oh man.
So the PJs kind of popped off and went over there, started digging brick for brick. At the time, like our capability is pretty much anything that we can carry. That's how we roll. We don't have huge bulldozers or anything like that. Any type of mechanical, any type of machinery that we can use. So it's kind of just what we have. So we have some like man portable jaws of life that we can carry and some lift bags and things like that, but it's slow rolling. So anyways, they're just going brick by brick looking for these kids that were told were in there. They spend 3 days looking. By that time, the airfield's been cleared, FEMA lands, and they go out there to assist. They put a dog on the pile, and in 20 minutes, that dog clears the pile, and there was nobody in there. So
how many
minutes.
PJs? Well, how many PJs were looking for 3 days?
It was the entire. So I'm not. Yeah, it was
Holy
2 to 4 guys just out there working.
Yeah.
As long as they can and taking rest as they can, but they're looking because they thought this was just major thing. So 20 minutes this dog clears all their work that they just wasted. They could have been spending rescuing. And at that moment, the pararescue community was like, why don't we have dogs? So that was kind of the big thing. It got approved back then, but it's just one of those things. Dogs is it's a big task. It requires a lot of effort and it requires that. So it kind of just got approved. Everybody was like, yeah, that makes sense. And then it just kind of disappeared. So then fast forward, I guess 8 years later, 2018, our chief at the time, or our senior at the time here at Kentucky, just mentioned to me that this was something that occurred. And one of the things before joining the military, I was looking at becoming a sheriff and then eventually like doing 4 years and going K9. So it was kind of an interest, but like I said, I've just had zero experience in it. Now I'm a single dude, and as a pararescueman, as a single dude, you're traveling on the road 280 days a year at least. So you can't really have a pet dog either. So it's just this hole in my life that I've had. So I was like, I'm gonna see what this is about, because then I can get a dog and I can travel around with it. And I kind of took it as just a way for me to get a pet, kind of. But so as I started looking into it, started talking to some of the FEMA folks, talking to some of the military dog handlers and stuff like that, I started realizing like this is actually huge. Like this could change the game for pararescue and for the special warfare side of the house in the Air Force. So start looking into it a little bit more. We fly down to Lackland, myself and my chief, and we present this program to Lackland Air Force Base, the K9 group down there. And they just, I don't think I was through the entire brief, and they were just like, yes, like, absolutely, let's get this, like, let's throw you in the system. We're going to make your own little tab, everything. Like, let's get this going.
I could see those guys doing that, especially those guys down there. I mean, they're usually obviously pro dog, but like,
yeah.
I mean, so they're like, yeah, sure, we'll do this.
Yeah.
So like that, they bring it up to you and you're like, yeah, I mean, yeah, fuck, I'll do it. That's, I mean, so talk a little bit about how, like right now the program is just the single dog, which we're going to talk about that in this last half of the show.
Yeah.
But kind of like at this point, because like they make you a new tab, which I didn't know you guys, that's fucking rad. So
one of one.
Yeah,
one
I'm
for
like,
one. Yeah.
yeah, everyone's like, oh, dudes talk about long tabs. You're like, fuck, have you seen this one? And they're like, what is that? That's not even real.
They're like, you made that up.
Yep.
No, that's not even real, bro. And they're like, no, I promise. So as this whole thing goes on, I would imagine that all these new standards and certifications and everything, like new SOPs and TTPs and blah, 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 all that shit has to come out. So what was the process like for that? Because I have to assume that you guys are pretty regimented on TTPs and protocols and procedures and blah, 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 and everything else. So there has to be some sort of like profile design to say, this is when we use the dog, this is when we don't, and all that kind of stuff. So at its onset, what was the kind of like call out setup or the mission profile for the dog portion?
Yeah, so I started with what we'd most likely use the dog for would be like a mass casualty situation, natural disaster. Right now, we've kind of focused on the civilian rescue, so natural disasters and all that stateside. I think as the program grows, we'll be able to actually develop it into a true Air Force Special Warfare dog. But currently, she provides that search and rescue in a non-threatening and, well, non-enemy environment. So we base it on, she'll go out and do all our tactical training with us too. So if we have, you know, the classic explosion and there's all these people out there, every time you do a mass casualty scenario in any type of combat medic, there's always somebody missing. And so we've immediately eliminated that. It's taken us from looking and setting up human search patterns using our eyes and ears. You know, some of those, I've been on one training mission where that took us about an hour to find this one person that the people had hidden. So just in training with her, we found that guy, and I think it was 1:30.
Well, and I act like I'm
They're like, shit, we don't have, we didn't know what else to do.
I'm sitting here like a dipshit. Like because I've gone through this. I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, no, I shouldn't be surprised. I mean, but I'm like, no, I mean, but no, but everybody else is surprised. They're like,
so that's exactly, I think that, and as well as a couple of our avalanche scenarios where I've been able to demonstrate Callie's capability in the snow. That's where
you can have that.
Eric loves the cold.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where it kind of validated to the team, was where they were like, oh, all right, that actually makes a lot of sense, because we just did the same scenario a while ago and it took us an hour and a half to find this dude, and now we just found him in less than 2 minutes. So all of a sudden these guys are starting to see the value.
And when you back up even to law enforcement, you know, law enforcement, military, first and foremost, regardless if like you're listening to this, whether it's single purpose, dual purpose, whatever, first and foremost, their job is a location tool. Like whether they're locating people, narcotics, explosives, whatever they're taught to find, stuff, anything. And, you know, that's why I joke. People are like, oh, I'm like, I just teach dogs to find stuff and bite people. Like, that's all. I mean, just oversimplification, but still, you know, so it makes sense that, you know, and then I can immediately see the benefits of it. Like if you're having a user in a threatening environment. What was the dude that was shot down in Kosovo?
Golfing.
Yep. Yeah, the F-117, the Nighthawk guy or whatever. I mean, because I remember that whole thing going down, and that was pretty hairy. So
I think they made a movie about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Behind enemy lines.
Yeah, so I can immediately see where having the dog there would limit the time on the ground, and so currently, is there any plans in that program to give the dogs the ability to help protect the team or the unit?
No.
Right,
so
right.
So
we can edit.
We can cross our fingers.
Yeah.
Right?
We're not live. So
So right now we're validating that she's a good search and rescue dog.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we're focusing on. I do think that, like I said, in the future, I don't think we'll do the same as what our brothers do, like the other assaulters do, where they have these.
It's not your job.
Tracking.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So and they've already got that whole plugged, you know. So
Yeah.
like what I see value in is her having that area scent search for missing people, and then protecting our team if we're in an environment where we need, you know, if I'm heads down working on a patient, I want to at least know somebody's walking up behind me. So
Right.
a point alert defense system, and then potentially a non-lethal way of disengaging somebody that's threatening our space.
So on that training mission prior to it, where she found him in 1.5 minutes, did you have some of the old timers kind of poo-pooing and naysaying and giving you that whatever eye?
Yeah, so prior to that, she was kind of just a nuisance in the team room. She's just barking all the time. Everybody has TBIs, and they all get headaches really easy. So everybody's just getting pissed off because this dog's, they don't really see the purpose of it. She's just there. We're seeing her as a pet for the most part. And then even on that mission, it took way longer than it should have to be like, oh yeah, we're looking for somebody. Like, why don't we use the dog? So it was one of those things, like we were just not sure. And so as soon as we used her, she found him, and they were like, okay.
This is a perfect point for Eric to tell the story about San Clemente Island, where those
we had some when I worked for Cobra K9 on the West Coast NSW contract, we were out doing workups for deployment, and we had they had changed this area, and they added a cubby hole in there that the guys didn't know, from prior deployments and training there. And so they had someone hiding in there, and so the overhead IR is telling them everybody's out, but there's still a military age male in there somewhere. He did not come out. And everybody's telling him, and dude, they couldn't find him. And I knew where he was at. And I was training the dogs. And I remember going to the one chief, and I said, hey chief, why don't you use the dog? And he's like, why the hell would I do that? And I was like, peace out, bro. So I went back to the command post and just waited, and they came back, and then screaming and yelling happened, and they went back out because the guy was still there. And I don't think that I stayed where I was at. I don't think they ended up using the dog, but that whole, why would we do that? And this was 2013 when that happened, or end of 2013. So it's like, by this point you would think the dogs, people would understand that. And, but they didn't. You still find, even to this day in law enforcement, military, you still have to teach people and show worth. And I'm always fascinated by that. Always.
Yep.
Well, that's why I didn't act. I was like, oh shit, a minute and a half. I mean, and we've done that. I mean, several of our dogs, dual purpose dogs have found like people that are non-threatening, which I don't like, but they use them for that because primarily they're made to find stuff, but made to find people. But so that training scenario, did you guys get to go home early?
Yeah, I mean, obviously
they're like, fuck, go do it again.
PJs have a bad habit. Like, if you have a bag with enough pockets, you'll just, like, doesn't matter how big your bag is, you'll still fill it. So you always same thing with time. Like, if we just have free time, we'll fill it. So
we probably paid hourly, bro.
Yeah, probably ended up debriefing our rope scenario for like an extra 6 hours or something. So.
You guys are good at doing a lot of things. You're not good at doing nothing.
Yeah.
Correct.
You know.
But yeah, and then the other scenario that is pretty much a couple months following that, we were out in Montana. We're in the backcountry. We're out on snowmobiles, and we were out cruising around. Our training shop called in, and they're like, "Hey, avalanche just hit over here. There's 3 missing people." So we drove out there, and they had buried 2 beacons in the snow, and then 2 avalanche beacons, and then they had buried an actual person, I think like 4 feet under the snow, something like that. So pretty shallow, but he had his helmet over his head, so he had enough air for just a little bit of time. But so anyways, we got on scene. We started searching with the beacon. The number 1 rule is, if you're in the backcountry, beacon is the fastest way to find somebody. But it just so happened in this scenario, it took Callie a little over 4 minutes to find the living person, and it took us between 15 and 20 minutes to find each of the beacons. So once again, at that time, the team was like, "Okay, this is pretty awesome." So it was just, I don't remember.
It's been fucking 20 years now since I was dealing with that. But I mean, most of the time you've got about 18 minutes or so. I think back then it was about 18 minutes before the Avalon came out from Black Diamond and whatever they're called now. But you have like 18 minutes, and that's when people start like dying. So 4.5 minutes is pretty fucking fast.
Yeah.
And especially in a debris field and with an unknown with an unknown start. So I'm sure they had they didn't have a point of disappearance and then the
Right.
last known and then the end of the slide, like all the things they teach in those
Yeah.
avalanche courses. You're like, yeah, well, I know it's not up high. So
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
yeah. So we're gonna take a break real quick. When we come back, we're gonna talk about the dogs. So right now it's just a one dog shop. We're gonna talk about that a little bit when we come back, and then we'll talk about Miss Callie and that whole process. So again, don't fast forward through the commercials. We'll be back in just a second.
All right, guys, this episode has been brought to you by great sponsors of ours. Please don't skip through this. Take a listen to them. One of our oldest sponsors and great friends of ours are the people down at Highland K9 down in North Carolina. I really like them. We see them at all the conferences. I know a lot of people have been to their school for dog trainers. They've been on the podcast. Highland K9, they're a full service canine and pet dog training business where they can train you to be a trainer. They can get you a dog. They have handler classes. They have supervisor classes. They have trainers courses for just LE. They have them for anybody who wants to be in the dog business, be a dog trainer of any kind. Check them out. Their website is tacticalpolicek9training.com, tacticalpolicek9training.com. If you are smart, you'll go down there in the winter. It is North Carolina. It is warm. You get to work dogs. It's no joke school, guys. You're not going down there for a month and rushing through it. They're actually trying to make you real deal dog trainers. Tacticalpolicek9training.com.
Next is a sponsor that's been with us for quite a while, Dogtra. I love Dogtra stuff, and they continually keep bringing out new products. One of the things that I've been using a lot lately is the new Tone Box. If you're a pet trainer or if you train a lot of police officers, and I harp at my guys all the time about timing, and this thing literally pairs to the remote, and when you're using the remote, whether you're using Nick, constant, or vibrate, it makes a noise, so you can get the timing down 100% consistent. And so I can demonstrate how to do an out with an e-collar immediately, quickly, and it is so effective that I can't believe that it took me forever to figure it out to get that. They've also got these new comfort feather titanium things that go on the collars that are fantastic for making sure we got contact. It actually has 6 points, and this comes in 2 sizes, and it's a titanium feather thing. They're awesome. They got comfort contact points for the bark collars, the YS600. One of my favorite things. I have about 50 of them at the kennel, and it is dead silent. And I put them on all the pet dogs, and I can leave them on because they have the comfort contact points, and they're fantastic. All this stuff you can get at dogtra.com. And if you use the discount code WDR10, you get 10% off a single item over $200. So that covers the ball trainer. That covers the 1900 Ask Hands Free, which is my personal favorite for all the big dogs. It covers the 2-dog system, the 202C, which I use for the 2-dog pet guys, and fantastic. So dogtra.com, or go to @DogtraOfficial on all the socials. That's Facebook, Instagram, all those places. So hit them up, dogtra.com.
Guys, I don't even shop any other sites when I'm looking for everything for dogs. Our one-stop shop for anything pet dog training and police dog training, hunt dog training, anything you need, you can find at rayallen.com. They have been doing it forever. We have a great relationship with them. Again, they're at all the conferences. You can stop up and talk to them. They have more stuff there than any place. rayallen.com. They are amazing. We have a great, really, really good relationship with those guys. Like I said, I get on their website. I do not look anywhere else. I just get on Ray Allen. Why should I? Fill up my cart, pay it, boom, shipping. Here we go. Everything's coming. rayallen.com. And guess what? We do have a discount code for them. Working Dog Radio for 10% off. It's all one, Working Dog Radio, and it's all caps. Check them out, rayallen.com.
I'm not too ashamed to admit that I used our own discount code to buy stuff for the kennel. We have American Aluminum next. They're a new sponsor for moving forward. They have been around for quite a while. They manufacture a wide variety of products, from the high quality cam lockers and toolboxes to a huge line of products designed to meet the ever-changing needs of law enforcement community. Back in 1992, due to the demand for safe, secure transport for a nearby law enforcement department's canine, they introduced the very first Easy Rider canine. They have continuously grown and expanded products, catering to the needs and wants of the valued customers and a high-profile clientele. Over the years, as the needs have changed, they have evolved and expanded their products to include inmate transport systems, canine training aids, canine inserts, contraband, containment, and animal control systems, just to name a couple things. So you can find them at easyrideronline.com. rider.com. That is Easy Echo Zulu Rider online.com. You can find them on the socials at American Aluminum Accessories, and then you can hit them up toll free 1-800-277-0869. You don't have to worry about writing all that down. We're going to put it in the show notes. So just scroll down to the bottom, write it down, click the link, takes you straight there onto your phone.
Our first sponsor we ever had, he's our ride or die. He's been with us since the beginning, is Arno over at ALM K9 Equipment. His stuff is so good. Ted, gets suits. Ted's suit, he's had it for a long time. Arno's fixed it. He's taken a million bites on it. It still holds up. The thing's amazing. I've got a suit from him. I love it. Use it all the time. But the main thing that I really love about Arno is his hidden sleeves are ridiculously amazing. They are the best. And his tugs. I usually buy tugs from Arno by the box load. He'll send me a whole bunch of them. I hand them out to the handlers, new handlers when they come in, experienced handlers. They last for a long time. They're amazing. The craft work is great. Arno's doing all the sewing there. He's got pre-made suits. He can do custom-made suits, everything you need out there. And he's out there in sunny Las Vegas. Get on his website, check him out, almk9equipment.com, almk9equipment.com. Discount code WD Radio, all caps, 10% off your first order. Check them out.
All right, we're back with Pararescueman, Rudy Parsons, running the only search and rescue dog in the DoD, right? It's the only DoD search and rescue
service
dog, right?
wide, yeah, right.
That's
Right,
correct,
you got to sync. You're the only dude with that tab.
That is correct. I need to actually make something, put it above.
Yeah.
That is like, dudes are gonna see that and they'll be like, what in the hell? Like, even I like,
They'll be like, stolen valor. I don't even know what he stole, but that's fake.
Yeah, like, where did you get that? So we talked a little bit about.
Can I throw a comment in on
go
that?
ahead. Yeah.
But I've actually been to down at Lackland. I've been to some handler school. Some kennel master conferences. I've been around and it's funny because they'll talk about how there's these social media communities that see me and they'll be like, oh, what's this guy doing? Like, this is bullshit. And I'm like, and then they'll beat me and they'll be like, oh, well, no, okay, that makes sense. So it's kind of funny. Like, there's a lot of, I've never been approached about it, but I do think there is a lot of that going on out there about it is a weird, she is the only one. So it kind of is a weird little fence, I guess, that people don't know because it's so unique and so
yeah,
isolated.
the brass that are uniform Nazis someone will at some point.
Oh yeah.
You happen to be at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base where you got to tie your arm in a salute. Some guy's going to go, what is that, Airman? What is that?
What the fuck?
That's unauthorized. You'd be like,
yeah.
What in the fuck is that?
Listen, General, you don't need to know.
Yeah.
They love this. Do that.
Yeah, that'll go over super well. So it's a one dog shop. You guys have been basically training for 3 years or something?
3 years, yep.
And we're gonna get to her certifications, but her name is Callie. She's a Dutchie.
Yep.
Right. So for everybody listening, it's SAR_pup, SAR_PUP. You've already got 27,000 followers anyway. So I'm sure everybody fucking follow. Yeah, I mean, so but if you don't, go follow it. You got pictures of jumping out of fucking planes and helicopters and shit with her, which we can talk about because you have some of that certification stuff. I mean, you guys, you're in the Air Force, right? So,
correct.
Right. Did you have to swim with her?
She did. Yeah, we've been out into Pendleton and did our maritime stuff with.
I was gonna say, did you see Dustin and have him throw you off the fucking tower? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Get in the water.
It's a rite of passage at this point.
I thought I was over that. So talk a little bit about Callie, where she came from, and the whole process of selection and that whole deal.
Yeah. So like you said, she's a 4-year-old Dutch Shepherd. And me being me, I had no idea what I was getting into, had no idea, puppy selection, any of that stuff. So talked to some of the guys out at, Ohio Task Force FEMA team. They kind of pointed me up in the direction of, PennVet Working Dog Center out of Philadelphia.
Oh, yeah.
So out of PennVet, I, contacted them. They're pretty much sold out for years and years ahead of time, but they were really intrigued by the process, by the program I was setting up. So they had me come out, and I did a dog selection. I specifically wanted point a year just because I felt like it to validate what our program was. I kind of wanted a pointy ear. I thought it'd be funny. It would look funny if we showed up with like a floppy ear and would be like, yeah, we're here to, you know, attach these soft teams. But so I specifically asked for a pointy ear. They brought out a couple dogs. Callie jumped off the books to me. She just looked incredible. Come to find out, so they did actual like rubble pile searches with her, and she found all the people really quickly. Was never sidetracked or anything, like just always working. So I really keyed in on her. Come to find out, she was actually being trained in the police dog world, and they were really hesitant to sell her out from the police because she was doing really well on that side of the house. But so anyways, they sold Callie to me, and went through their handler school there. So they taught me the basics. First time in a room with they were like, all right, let's see where we need to start for handler. And they had me go in the room, just play with a random dog. I think I was in there for less than a minute. And they're like, okay, that's enough. Let's go talk. And they're like, yeah, they're like, first thing we're just going to just say a command once. And then that's pretty much the very beginning of my handler training. So they could recognize where I was at in 20 seconds.
One command, one behavior.
Yep.
Yeah. This is a leash. This is the end you use.
That's from that 20 seconds. That's pretty much where they went. Very beginning. So spent a couple weeks up there, almost a month up there, learning the ins and outs of working dogs. Then immediately went down and trained with the Tennessee task force, kind of met some of the guys in the New York FEMA task force. So immediately just kind of started meeting all these really cool people that are experts in the field, and just started just writing everything down and just kind of just being a sponge and started absorbing. And then also learned that this was going to be a lot more than what I thought it was.
Yeah. And we've had FEMA handlers on before, and the FEMA certification process, Eric and I laugh about it all the time, even on the military side. Like dudes like bitch about some certification stuff, and K9 handlers bitch about it. I'm like, dude, it's literally 20 minutes once a year. Like you can just, it's fine. The FEMA certification is ridiculous.
Yeah, FEMA's like, hold my beer.
It's here. It's like a week.
Multiple days.
I mean, fucking hell. And so talk a little bit about like the training up to the point where you start going, because you have basically a FEMA equivalent cert, right? You've got multiple wilderness certs. You're going to get your avalanche this winter, right?
Yep. Hoping to go out and train with Jake and get the avalanche actually certified. So
you're going to do it in the United States. You're going to go to Canada.
Probably in Colorado with the CRAD dudes. So.
Yeah. Ask Jake about trying to get certified in Colorado or in Canada.
We've had it. Yep.
Fucking evaluators. Yeah. Anyway, so talk a little bit about the training process. You're talking about that, like getting trained up for it. So when do we start to go get our FEMA equivalent, and how did that go?
Yeah. So I kind of focused first, just aiming at FEMA, and then wilderness was kind of at convenience, because there's plenty of, I could train anywhere with wilderness. So we'd be out doing training with my team or anything, and I just have somebody go run off in the woods and hide. But FEMA is very specific. You have to find rubble piles, set up certain different problems, diffused and focal scents and different stuff like that. So constantly going up, training, traveling with Tennessee, Ohio, Indiana, Colorado, California, just traveling all over and just kind of just meeting all the experts and learning. I had Callie for about 8 months, and then we went down to Tennessee and had FEMA's evaluators actually evaluate us. We did the full FEMA cert with FEMA evaluators, and they blessed us off as we're equivalent of them. And the whole reason I wanted that is because the goal is we're going to be searching piles side by side with these guys, and I want them to see us as an equal and know what our capability is. Like a lot of times in a wilderness search, you show up and you're like, Uncle Bob's got his bloodhound out there, and you're like, he says he's certified. You have no idea what it is. So,
well, and it's a different deal for you guys too. I mean, you do show up for that, but I mean, for that kind of stuff. But I can imagine that as that program gets more mature, they'll probably ask you guys to do some things that the FEMA handlers are kind of not, and they're not supposed to. It's not their job.
Correct.
So, but I mean, and at that point, like you're going to be the SME on that team. Like when you're out, and they're going to look at you and be like, "Can the dog do this?" And you're like, "Well, I mean, I guess like we'll find out." And not that's not the time to find out. But so once you get the certification done and you start going back, when you at what point did you do the aha moment where she found somebody in a minute and a half? And was it pre or post deploy or post certification?
So I'm trying to think now. I think it was post both FEMA and wilderness. After we had both of those, that's kind of the aha moment. So that's, like I said, 8 months of the guys on the team being like, what is this? Like, why is this happening to us?
This good motherfucker getting a dog. We have to work and you get to go play with the dog all day. Seriously. So, so so you got wilderness and avalanche you're going to do this winter. So how has like the training gone recently in terms of like continued training and working towards that kind of stuff with the team?
So it's going really well, and it's actually awesome now because I'll have guys that after training will be like, "Hey, you want me to go hide for Cali?" Or, it's actually planned. It's planned into a lot of our scenarios instead of me trying to force something at the end. Like, so it's actually becoming very organic, and I think our entire squadron's really understanding what the value of the dog is and now we're seeing how to train them. But what's been impressive to me was just that Callie was able to, because she was able to kind of just figure out that, like you said, it's just a search game. So in all these different environments I put her in, desert, urban, wilderness, snow, even like water, swamp or river type areas, like she's kind of put it into the same, like she's been able to figure it out that this is the exact same game. And so it's been very impressive to see her just pick it up and be able to just, wherever I get her, like if I just, even at your fun house out there in Ohio, like, I can just put her anywhere and just give her the command and she knows exactly what to do in whatever environment. So it's really cool to be able to do all three of these different trainings at the same time and just see them kind of mesh together in her head, that it's just, this is the same game for her. So.
Yeah, since I started having search and rescue guys come to use the fun house, and we've had some on the podcast, I've really gained a ton of respect for the folks. And then when we did some training up there at Muscatatuck, where I had some search and rescue guys assigned to my little group, a lot of law enforcement guys kind of poo-poo the search and rescue, the civilian search and rescue side of things, almost as if they're like coming in to bring some voodoo magic bullshit, and when it's just dog training stuff and it's good dog work. But what they don't understand is search and rescue people would probably live in their truck, but
some of them do
every piece of Gucci kit they can come up with, man. I was up at Muscatatuck, and the guy assigned to me, I had a bloodhound, and that dude had he had this, he could, this GPS device, this thing, that thing, he could see in the dark, he had all this other shit. And I'm like, dude, you got like 10 grand on your vest, and he's not getting paid to do this.
And it's all volunteer.
Yeah. It's crazy. And to watch their dogs work, they had some good dogs, man. It's really neat. But what none of them get to do, where you get to, kind of shine a little bit, is some jumping stuff with your dog. Some static lines. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So like I said, the whole thing. So the reason I think that this military search and rescue dog thing makes sense is because there's local, there's state, and there's federal agencies, and all search and rescue agencies have canine. What we provide to the game is that we now have a dog that can get any place, anytime. So the way we do that is we have to think outside the box. So the way that we get to places as pararescuemen is helicopters or jumping by land, by sea, by air, all those different ways. So our focus was, once we get certified, to be able to really fit ourselves into the puzzle as this capability that gets to places nobody else can. So we do the air assault stuff out of helicopters. Did a lot of that with Dustin down in California. So fast roping, rappelling out of helicopters. jumping into the ocean, all that stuff. And we do that around here too. We've got our birds out of Frankfort, Kentucky that we fly with all the time, and they're awesome, hoisting in and out of little tiny DZs and stuff like that. And then on top of that, the jumping aspect. So we do military free fall, and then our other one is static line square. So it's actually a static line chute that comes out as a square chute. So it's steerable.
That's
so
nice.
Yeah. So it's much different than the airborne, jump out and feet and knees
Round
together.
and pound, buddy.
Yeah. And whap, hit the ground like a sack of potatoes. I wouldn't put Callie through that. I try not to go through that as much as I can. So we do steerable canopies for her only, which allows for a flared landing and very comfortable for her. But yeah, that was, I think, the moment. So at that point, I'd been training for about a year. I'd done multiple handler courses, been just absorbing as much as I can from everybody I was meeting, from the avalanche side, the military side, from the FEMA side, so the wilderness side, everybody. One of the ladies I work with here is actually, she does bed bug detection. And like you said, just, one of the best dog trainers I've ever met. And just for bed bugs, and it's the same thing. It's scent detection, scent and scent, and just to get to elevate that drive. So I was just learning all this stuff. And so I spent about 3 months getting Callie ready to skydive. I kind of set a time on the schedule. Like if I feel good, this is where I want to get her first jump. So first I took away all her niceties, like her beds and her mats and everything. And I just had her jump bag for her. She immediately recognized that, like that's where I'm going to lay it down. So she just started making that a very comfortable spot for herself. After about a month of her just sleeping in that and just spending time in that, I started zipping her up in it, and obviously just feeding her hot dogs, rewarding her whenever she was in it, just making it super comfortable. And then we started zipping her up, and then kind of like jumping on the up and down a little bit, eventually getting to suspending her in the bag, jumping off of a bench, just kind of escalating that. So during all that, we're also training her to be ready to use her goggles, use her ear protection, just kind of developing this. By the time we got on the bird to jump, she'd already been flying for over 100 hours. So she had plenty of time on the aircraft. So she's familiar with the noises, the vibrations, everything. We'd gone to other jump trips and watched everybody else jump out of helicopter or out of airplanes together. We just sit on the plane watching. Eventually she was in the bag watching other people jump out on the drop zone, watching people land. So and then playing out on the drop zone, playing on the aircraft. So just kind of making everything normal for her. And then it was the day before we jumped. I stood up while everybody else was falling out of the ramp, and I walked to the edge of the ramp. She was hooked up to me. I had my parachute on, walked to the edge of the ramp, and she just watched everybody else fall out into the abyss pretty much. And then I felt her kind of tense up, and she like looked back into the aircraft, and I could tell she recognized that there was nobody else, and we're the next to go. And so it would have been a good time to jump, but I actually went back and sat back down and just kind of let her just kind of process everything. And then we landed, picked everybody else back up, took off, and then we jumped. And I can still feel her like tense up before we jump. As soon as we, obviously under free fall, I can't really feel much. It's just, but as soon as we open up canopy, she's looking around, super chill, kind of just hanging out. It's a really peaceful time for us. So I'm just steering the canopy. And then when we land, I'll take a knee, unzip the bag, and then I give her a verbal release. So she's just kind of hanging out in there, just looking, waiting. Give her a verbal release, and she just jumps out and does quick zoomies. I get her a reward. She kind of gets some tug of war in while I'm trying to I'm trying to pack a chute and tug of war with my dog at the same time. But yes, and then we put that away. She kind of rolls around a little bit, and then she gets back at my side, and we're ready to work. So it was kind of, like I said, that was about a year into my time with Callie that we did that. And that was, to me, I was like, you know what, I think I'm getting this. I obviously don't know everything or much at all, but that's where I was like, I kind of understand how a dog's brain works on creating this drive and rewarding and conditioning and all that stuff. So
do you think the helo casting, stepping out into the abyss of that, helped with this, having done it prior?
Yeah, so we actually jumped before we did any type of helo cast in the ocean.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, so
Deep end.
yeah, so we had done a lot of helicopter stuff and hoisting and fast roping, and then we jumped, and then we went out to California, helo cast. Yeah, helo casted it, and then did a lot of like the beach, breaching the surf and all that stuff. So yeah.
I bet the day of jump there was no hot dogs. I would not be giving a dog hot dogs.
No, there was no hot dogs. No.
No way.
It's funny how many people ask.
To the guys behind you. Sorry.
Yeah. Nope. It's funny how many people ask if she pisses or like poops in her bag, you know.
No, I don't think they understand that a dog's gut will lock up, man. And they can go days without eating just from being afraid of things, let alone really just unsure.
Oh yeah, they can.
Yeah.
So what do we see here? We're looking forward in the future, program wise. Where are we headed? You think?
So I have my vision. I probably won't say that just because it's so far out there. It's what I would like to see happen. But I think the next steps of the 5-meter target is. So I'm actually heading out to Alaska here in the next little bit, and I'll be out there for a couple months. I'll be attached to the Alaska Pararescue team out there, and they actually do a rescue alert out there. So they're picking up anywhere from 7 to 20 people a week out in the wilderness, and so they're busy doing these remote rescues. From what I've heard, they get a certain amount of missions that they have to deny because there's no known location of the person that is needed to be found or rescued. So what I'm hoping to do, for one, I'll be out there providing my pararescue skills, flying with them and being able to do the medicine and recovery and all that. But I'm hoping to increase the chances of those people that we don't know location. Even if it is, we just get someplace, spend 2 hours on the ground. Cali can cover 80 acres in under 2 hours. And searching for somebody. So we at least spend 2 hours on the ground, give that person just a little bit of a fighting chance, potentially increase their risk or increase their chance of survival.
Well, what people don't understand, if she's doing 80 acres, you're doing a lot of shit yourself. So you got to be in shape. I think people forget about that part. So are you pretty well known now in the PJ community? Everybody kind of knows the program, or you're going to have to reintroduce every time you go somewhere?
So I think it's 50-50 at this point. I think some of the younger dudes and social media has been big for us. That's one of the reasons I started up Cali's Instagram page, was to get our name out there, kind of validate us in the community, so that people would know. For one, it's a great networking tool. I've been able to reach out and be like, hey, I'll be in. That's how I met Dustin Wynn. Actually, it was he hit me up through that, and so all these different cool little networking capabilities. I can talk to people about what gear and all that stuff. But it's about 50-50 of the pararescue community, I think, that knows about what Cali provides. So, for example, there was just another earthquake in Haiti, last week, and
had bad timing with the whole Afghanistan thing. Shit happens. But they had another bad one.
Yeah. So there are pararescuemen out in Haiti right now. But it was one of those that we had to, after the fact that those guys got sent out, we were like, hey, why wouldn't you send the dog? And they're like, oh, we had a dog. So it was one of those things. So it's still getting out there. And I'm hoping to get the word out that this is a capability, and then that hopefully the when stuff like this does happen, they know that this is a capability that we can get places, and then the quality of care that she provides.
Is there anybody in any other part of the DOD that is rescue? Like any Army units, anybody that could use a dog like that?
Yeah, there absolutely is. So in the Air Force, we have CRG, so they're crisis response groups. They actually go places, and a lot of them will do casualty collection and stuff like that. So they're really they could have some value in that. In the Army, there's plenty of groups too there. I think even there's a security forces in the Air Force in Georgia that was looking into it too, because they had responded. They were an Air National Guard group, and they'd responded to a hurricane, and they were in charge of looking for people as well after that. And so there's, I think, for one, in the military, you never know. You could be I think Marines are the worst, but if you're a Marine, you end up being a grunt no matter what you were trained to do.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. but you never know what you're going to be like facing and what the complex situation is. But as far as people that are trained to do this, that our specialty is the reaching advanced places, difficult, austere locations, and then providing recovery and treatment. And so I think I tried to just bridge that gap and give us a more advanced search capability.
Well, it looks like you're about to get real busy here with this Alaska group.
I'm hoping
Is that
so.
is that the busiest station to go to?
It is for stateside, yeah. So
That's like the Bermuda Triangle of people up there, though, too. Like people just, well, first of all, people go to Alaska to disappear, and then some actually do. Like, and I don't know what the numbers are. No, it's crazy. Like people go up there and they're just like, they never hear from them again, like ever. And like, they're like, oh, I haven't heard from so-and-so in a year. And they're like, well, shit, when was the last time you heard from them? And so, yeah, I mean, they get called out a lot. And they finally moved that damn bus though, right? Like the bus that everyone went out to go see, and everybody, and like, there was a ton of, and I think the Air National, like you guys moved that out of there.
Yeah, it was probably, I think it was sling loaded out or something like that.
Yeah. What the hell are you talking about?
So it's a bus. What's it?
I don't remember the movie. I'm total like.
Yeah, I read
if it was snow, I didn't watch it. I can't.
No,
I hate Fargo.
There's like a bus from a movie, and like people live at. I'll look it up. Well,
it's like it's something. So it's this kid that he grew up in an affluent family. It's a true story, and he just denied his inheritance and any
Into the Wild.
Into the Wild. There we go. I was thinking Wild Hearts for some reason, but yeah, Into the Wild. So the guy just boogies out from his family and he just does a transient life across the US, and he's like does different, like goes to different like climbing areas and just different wilderness spots, and just kind of camps, lives on the land for the most part. Every once in a while get like a odd job here and there. Eventually he makes his way up to Alaska, and he lives out in Alaska for a while. He camps in this bus that became very well known because of this, I think.
Yeah.
And he ended up misidentifying a plant that he ended up eating, and he ended up poisoning himself and dying in that bus. But there's some crazy stuff because he had alter ego that he lived by and all these different things. His family could never find him, but they eventually obviously got word. But
yeah, so it's there's a crazy, like there's actually a video of you guys airlifting this thing out, and it's being airlifted by a big ass helicopter that doesn't even have wheels on it. It's got, of course, this is Alaska, so it's got
sleds or whatever.
Yeah, but it's 25 miles off the road, off the Parks Highway. Yep. And like it's out in the middle of freaking nowhere, and people would just like show up in their flip-flops and like their Nalgene water bottle, and they're like, oh, I'm gonna walk 25 miles one direction, no food or anything else. And the amount of like rescue calls from that were, I mean, insane. Like, I mean, so the Air National Guard, I guess, did it as a training exercise, so they didn't have that. There was no cost to the public or whatever else. I just found an article. I was crazy. Like, there obviously there's like it's a video of them flying the bus. I don't know what to do with it, but yeah. So anyway, people go to Alaska and they never hear from them again.
Well, if you listen to people talk, they may have been carried away by the mosquitoes, because I heard they're the worst anywhere in the United States.
I hear they're terrible. Yeah,
no, fucking bear too.
Yeah.
That's in my packing list. Is on my packing list to go up there is mosquito nets and tons of bug spray.
Yeah,
like
bug
actual,
spray. Right. Yeah. Nothing will happen to you with all that shit.
Fuck that.
Yeah.
So I have one more thing, and then a question, and then we'll wrap up. The one thing I have is you should get some of the boys and come up to the fun house, because I completed the simuation shoot house.
Oh, cool.
So it's got 10 rooms, so they can come up and run some reps, and then we can hide. It's 40,000 square foot. You know, you can see, you can hide a lot of shit in there. People, I think the search and rescue folks are going to really use it a lot. This, the FEMA task force guys and girls are going to come up this winter. Because remember, it's heated with 4 bathrooms, so that's, everybody kind of likes that part.
Yeah, that'd be really cool, because to be able to apply our CQB stuff and actually have, because I'm still kind of winging it at this point, so to have somebody like you that would be able to set up an actual legit scenario for us that
Yeah.
kind of includes all that, I think that'd be pretty cool. So
Yeah, and there's so much fuckery you can do in there. Plus, there's no windows, so at 9 o'clock in the morning, it's pitch black. If you turn the lights out, so you can go nods. There's
nice.
a lot of stuff. And the other question is, so if we go to a training, say me, you, and Ted go to a training seminar, we're hanging out at night, and Ted and I get hammered the next morning, and we have to train. How fast can you throw a bag in me and get me back up?
Okay, that's where this is going.
Yeah.
I was like,
So,
what the fuck are you?
our gold standard is we should be able to get an IV in 6 minutes. That's like exit from Pararescue University, our PJU. That's our gold standard, 6 minutes. So, and that's generally taking into account, the scenario and everything. So it depends on how much you're harassing me as I'm doing it.
I was going to say, how combative you?
I'm not.
Yeah.
No, I would not. I'd be like,
I'm
just
not.
please. I feel like shit.
So yeah, probably I'd say in less than probably 4 to 6 minutes. Yeah.
Good to know.
So,
Put that in my phone
Good to
notes.
know. Good to know.
Under
Good
6
to
minutes,
know.
full recovery.
From
Well,
Bring over you.
the recovery might take a little bit more time, but
Right.
the very first HRD in San Antonio, one of our decoys got hammered, and they had 2 bags in him on the second day, and it's
Hagner. Everyone knows it was Hagner.
Well, yeah, I mean, so he had 1 in each arm, and
Love you,
there's a
Sean.
hilarious,
Yeah, that was
hilarious
pretty good.
picture out there of him like this with and it wasn't
the
even a
lines.
medic, it was
It
a
worked.
fucking dog guy. It was a
Oh,
medic.
nice.
It was like a vet. It was and there he's like, well, I mean, we works with dogs, and Sean's like, I'll be fine. We're like, okay, I mean, sure, hook him up.
I'm like,
Let's see
we
what
were out
happens.
with that dude last night. How do you know he's not still drunk?
yeah,
He's over there like putting the bag in like that.
that's part of our training. We got to be able to do it in any circumstances.
So once again, remind everybody, social media wise, where they can follow you, where they can see all this pretty cool stuff with you and Callie.
Yeah, so I kind of keep track of her training and capabilities all on @SARPup. So SAR_PUP on Instagram. I think I do have like a linked webpage on Facebook that kind of I do everything on Instagram. I think it just kind of populates over there. That's kind of it. And then, definitely always looking for training opportunities and any of that stuff. So I don't know how to validate you guys, but any like legit people, hit me up. If you're not legit, don't hit me up. But
He does not have an OnlyFans. So ladies, chill out.
I didn't.
Yeah.
Well, we'll just say I won't have an OnlyFans after they change it.
They have to change it up, right? Yeah.
That's well, we have a YouTube channel. I was like, I started a podcast so nobody has to see me, but now here I am. So, Eric, where are you?
Van S K9 on Instagram. For what we talk about in here, that's probably the best place to go. The rest is all mostly pets, but the Van S K9 on Instagram is where you'll see most of the stuff. And what about you, Ted?
Torchlight K9, letter K number 9, and then my personal is Ted_Summers. And of course, we have the working_dog_radio for the podcast, and then HRD. We'll do Patreon too. So HRD Police K9 on Facebook or on Instagram, Facebook also. And then we got the Patreon account. So we have some other things going on for that here coming up too. There was some talk of some new patches and I think a new t-shirt design or something. So and then I've got the puppy thing, and you're doing the tone avoidance and tone. And then I've
Recall
got the
stuff. Yep.
And I've got 3 of these little shithead pointer puppies. Working pointer puppies are ridiculous. Like they're still working dogs, and they're assholes, and they're not fun to be around. They don't bite me, which is pretty rad.
Give them time.
Oh God, they're killing me.
Bit by everyone I ever had.
they're well, we'll see. So I have been raising them like a Malinois. So well, who knows? Like I'm making them play tug, and like I'm having my interns like do proper gripping techniques with the fucking pointer. So I'm like, no, make sure it's at the back, all the way at the back. I'm like, and I told my new kid Jacob, I'm like, if you fuck this one up, it's not that big of a deal. When we get the new puppies, like the puppy puppies, the Malinois puppies, like you can't mess these up. So he's like, oh man, okay. So, but yeah, they're going to do. Anyway, we're gonna post all that stuff too. I've got like fucking 3 hours of video I got to cut down to like 13 minutes. So, Rudy, man, this was a good episode. I knew when Jake and I had talked about this, and I texted you when I was in Montana at HRD, And I was like, yeah, this will be a good episode. So I'm glad you came on. And it's a cool program, and it's kind of like you said, it's like an aha moment. And like I really hope that the program continues to move forward. And I think that once you guys get like all the way done and certified, and you start having some successes, and they're gonna be like, oh yeah, they're gonna be just like this fucking SWAT guys, and be like, hey, where's the dog? And they're gonna be like, we don't know the rat, send the dog. So yeah, man. But yeah, again, thanks for coming on. It's been great.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me. I've enjoyed your guys' show, and so
Thank
it was
you.
an honor for me to be on here. So
Yeah, thanks a lot, man.
Appreciate it. All right, guys. We'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, guys.
let's see. Continue. All right.
Eric, you want to do the lead? Or you want me to? I did.
I'll do the lead in, then you do the intro.
Okay.
Of the guest. All right, everybody. Working Dog Radio, broadcasting the bike. We are bike. The fuck. We are. I just got us demonetized because I said the F word in the first 30 seconds, so we're screwed. But anyway,
start over.
Yeah. All right, we'll start over. Brian, we're starting over. Right?
Keep this clip though.
Yeah.